Welcome to the Trevor Meyer Show. I'm Trevor Meyer, and today we're going to rewrite Batman vs. Superman. Now, first of all, I want to take a second here and celebrate the fact that we just crossed 100 subscribers. We have 100 subscribers on this channel. I know, it's a tiny channel, little tiny channel for now, but I'm hoping that if you're watching this years from now, you can scroll down and see that we've got 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 subscribers. But for now, I'm happy with my 100. So thank you for supporting this channel. And yes, I said that we're going to rewrite Batman vs. Superman. Not Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. This is Batman vs. Superman, all right? And you can see here, I'm balancing out the force here. I got Superman on my shirt and Batman in the background. Although actually, what you never get to see is that Superman's right there next to Batman. And up there's my Marvel poster. See? We're all part of the same team. So, I sat on this one for a while, and I thought, what's the point? Who cares about Batman versus Superman? Why bother? Why bring it up? It was impossible. There was never going to be a good Batman versus Superman movie. I remember back when they made I Am Legend, they did a little teaser poster for Batman versus Superman, and I thought, boy, that sounds like a horrible idea for a movie. And then they made it, and I was so hoping that they were wrong. I mean, you remember that Comic-Con announcement?
I want you to remember, Clark, in all the years to come, in all your most private moments, I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
Whoa! What? What? What?
And you thought, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Way to make your mark and say to Marvel, we're here, all right? We are ready to compete with you. And here's the thing. They didn't need to compete with Marvel. That's the problem. That's what they never understood, is that I love Marvel. And that's not a Marvel bias. I mean, I love the Dark Knight trilogy too. I like the Tim Burton Batman movies. You know what I like? I like good movies, all right? And I like superhero movies. So when the two line up, that's just a great coincidence for me. I love that. I love good superhero movies. So it's not a Marvel versus DC bias. Not all the Marvel movies are winners either. But I think overall, most people would agree that Marvel has a better track record than DC, all right? Financially, critically, whatever your gauge is, unless you just personally like DC better. I can't argue with that. You love whatever movie you want to love, but the majority of people seem to be siding with Marvel. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, we're all part of the same team. But DC, all they had to do is put their two most famous characters, the two most famous comic book characters in all of history, Superman and Batman, in the same movie and make a good movie, and they make $2 billion automatically, all right? They didn't need to compete with Marvel. They didn't need to make a shared universe. They didn't need to build up to the Justice League, all right? They could have taken their time and they could have milked it for all the money in the world, but they didn't. They're like, hurry, Marvel's ahead of us. We got to catch up to them. No. You got Batman and you got Superman. Just make a great Batman versus Superman movie and you win. You automatically win. All you had to do was make a good movie. And
Boy, do we have problems up here.
again, some people like the one that they made, but this video is not for those people. I'm sorry. Look, if you actually like Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, more power to you. Go watch that, all right? Because this is going to be very different, very different. I started out by saying, okay, how much from Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice do I want to keep? And it started with like, okay, I would change this part, and then I would change that part. And 2 weeks later, I wound up with something unrecognizable. It's like one of those home makeover shows where step one is to bulldoze the house and build a brand new house. That's what I did. I'm like, it's not really a rewrite. It's not really a makeover. I bulldozed the whole thing and started over from scratch. And yes, there are some similar elements, as in Batman and Superman start out not liking each other, they fight each other, and then they team up in the end. That's about it. The bare minimum requirements for a Batman and Superman movie are there. But everything else is different. Some of the same characters are in there, like Lex Luthor's still in it. Everyone from the Daily Planet's still there. Alfred's still in it. But nothing survived intact from the original version. Not a single line of dialogue or image from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice survived my rewrite unchanged. Okay, so, and what I like to do, and I'm not saying that they should not really make this movie. Okay, I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that they should say, that guy had a great idea for a Batman versus Superman movie, let's do this for real. No, you had your chance. Don't do that half reboot thing where you do a sequel to Man of Steel and ignore the rest of the DCEU. That's just messy. All right, you know my stance on reboots if you saw my Terminators video. All right, so Terminator 6. Bottom line, they had their chance, they blew it, so I'm going to tell you what I would have done. And if you imagine like an alternate history where there's this branch reality where this version got made instead of the one that they made, I'm leaving Man of Steel alone. Yes, there are things that could have been better about Man of Steel, but I'm going to pretend that Man of Steel came out as is, and they said, we're making a sequel to Man of Steel and we want Batman to be in it. What would you do? And this is where we're taking off from there, okay? So this is going to be a lot like my rewriting Spider-Man 3 video, which currently is my most popular video on my channel. So if you've been watching for a while, you've probably seen that one. But hopefully this one or the Terminator 6 rewrite. What did I call it? Terminator 6 pitch by Trevor Meyer. Hopefully one of these is actually going to top my Spider-Man video. That's my goal. And this is going to be another long video. Why are these videos so long? Because this is as close as you're ever going to get to actually seeing this movie, all right? I would love to actually make this movie in real life, but it's not going to happen, all right? So that's not to say that someday I might not want to actually make a Batman and or Superman movie or a Terminator movie or a Mortal Kombat movie or a Power Rangers movie. If I actually take off as a successful writer, yeah, I want to write those movies. But for now, this is what I got. Fan fiction. This is pure fan fiction, all right? So yes, it's going to be a long one. So we start with the opening logos, all right? Warner Brothers logo, DC logo, Legendary logo, whatever else they put at the beginning of these movies. And then in the background, we don't hear music, we hear news footage, all right? And this is like 9/11, all right? It's being covered by every network on television. And we're hearing a description of the Battle of Metropolis that was from the end of Man of Steel. And we smash cut to all this news footage on all these networks, real life ones and fake ones like Gotham City News or whatever. And first we see the world engine. All the cars are going up and smashing down, coming up, smashing down, but from the perspective of like news choppers or whatever. And then we cut to the Kryptonian spaceship crashing and knocking over a whole bunch of buildings. And the last thing we see is Zod and Superman crashing into a building. And then, boom, smash cut to Batman versus Superman, all right? Batman vs. period Superman, all right? No subtitle, no little V. No, Batman versus Superman. That's the name of the movie. You might say, that's a gimmicky title. All right, well, it's less clumsy than the one that they actually did. And you know what? Let's just be honest. If it's a good movie, that gimmicky title still works, okay? So, that title fades out, and still black screen behind it, all right? And it says, 1 year later. That fades away, still black. And we hear a voiceover from Bryan Cranston. Yep, Bryan Cranston. He says, all gods are dead. Now we want the Superman to live. Then we hear Bradley Cooper say, is that Shakespeare? And Bryan Cranston says, Nietzsche, as in Friedrich Nietzsche, you know, the philosopher, German guy. And then we smash cut to a tray of drinks being carried out through Lex Luthor's penthouse. And it's being carried by a woman. We don't see her face. I'll explain why in a second. She brings it out to the balcony, and we see Bradley Cooper. She hands him a drink and says, Mr. Wayne. And he says, thank you. And then she turns and she hands a drink to Bryan Cranston, and she says, Mr. Luthor. And he says, thank you, Miss Tessmacher, that'll be all. And then she leaves, and we never see her again. The reason why I say we should never see her face is because I would like her to actually be a character in a future Superman movie. So why bother recasting? Just don't show her, and then we can cast her later. If we're talking about a future movie where we actually have Miss Tessmacher as a character, I would pick Anna Faris. But we're not going to talk about that now because she's not in this movie, okay? So, Bruce and Lex are out on the balcony talking about Superman and what should be done about Superman, okay? So, Lex Luthor is looking for a team up from Bruce, and he says, look, this Superman guy, he's like Godzilla, all right? Two aliens get into a fist fight in the middle of Metropolis, take down half a city block, and we think Superman's the good guy because he won? Just because he's the guy who won the fight, we think he's the good guy, all right? What if Zod had won? I mean, what's the difference? And Bruce is like, I don't know. And Lexa says, this is just the beginning of an alien invasion. There's a second wave coming. Superman is a spy. He's here to earn our trust. He's here to learn as much as he can about us so that when the next wave comes, we won't stand a chance. He's going to find our weakness, and he's going to use it against us. And Lex is going on about how he's got weapons that can kill Kryptonians, how he's been hoarding this substance called kryptonite that he has found all over the world. And he found out about kryptonite because the government has given him access to the crashed Kryptonian ship. And he's been using that computer to learn all he can about Kryptonians, their biology, and what can hurt them, what can kill them. And used a spectrometer to find all the kryptonite in the world. And he's basically either been mining it for himself or buying it from people who've already found it. And he's just stockpiling kryptonite for the next wave. Bruce is like, I don't know if we need to take things to that extreme. I think you're being a little paranoid, but I agree that Superman needs to be brought to justice for what he's done. And Bruce says, look, I'm sorry, I'm out. I can't be a part of that. And Lex says, you know what? That's fine. I know when I'm beat, but just tell me, what is your plan for taking down Superman? And he's like, well, I've got something else in mind. Cut to the Daily Planet, where they're having a staff meeting. Bruce Wayne has just bought the Daily Planet, all right? And they're all gathered around a table, and Bruce is giving his little pep talk, and he says, look, you guys are a great newspaper, one of the best in the world, and I don't want you to change the way you do things, all right? You stand for truth and justice, and that's great, but from now on, I want our focus to be Superman. I want us to focus on all the damage he did to the city, all of the lives that were lost during the Battle of Metropolis. I want, to interview all of the victims of the tragedy to force Superman to turn himself in, to get the public so mad that they won't let him live another day without turning himself in for the crimes that he committed. And Lois Lane speaks up and says, aren't we being a little bit hypocritical here? I mean, why don't we go after all vigilantes? What about Batman? And Bruce Wayne says, Batman is a punk in a Halloween costume who spends his nights beating up gang members in back alleys. He's going to get what's coming to him soon enough. Please, Miss Lane, focus on the big picture. Superman killed hundreds of people in Metropolis. He didn't check to make sure the buildings were empty. Yes, they were mostly evacuated, but not all of them were, and a lot of people died. And Superman has to answer for that. I don't care if it was an accident, all right? It's still negligence. It's negligent homicide, all right? And he has to answer for that crime. Finally, Clark Kent speaks up. He's like, excuse me, Mr. Wayne? And he's like, yeah. And he says, shouldn't we... Nothing, never mind. And Bruce Wayne is like, okay, what's your name? He says, Kent Sir Clark Kent. And he says, okay, Kent, maybe form a complete thought before opening your mouth next time. And he's like, I'll try, sir. And finally, class dismissed. The whole team breaks up, and Bruce says, Miss Lane, can I see you for a minute? And he calls Lois over and basically hits on her. He asks her out on a date, and she's like, oh, I can't. I'm seeing someone right now. And he's like, oh, really? Who? And she says, Clark. And he looks over her shoulder at him, and he's like, Kent? Really? And he's like looking, he's like, huh. Well, I don't know. I mean, like, maybe I'm just not seeing it, but he seems like kind of a dork. And she says, yeah, but he's really hot, so. And he's like, huh, okay. Well, Lois, you can go. Kent, get over here. And Lois leaves, and Clark walks up to him. He's like, yes, Mr. Wayne? And Bruce just kind of looks him up and down and says, yeah, I guess I can see it. I mean, I would tell you to start wearing contacts, but I can tell you got this whole ironically nerdy hipster thing going on, which chicks dig these days. And you dress okay. It's a little too much plaid for my taste. And Clark's like, actually, it's flannel. He's like, I thought flannel was a material. It's like, well, it's actually a color pattern, too. He's like, well, whatever. The point is, you got no confidence, man. I mean, like, you should be the high school prom king, and instead you look like the wallflower. I mean, what is it with you? And he says, well, I mean, I grew up in a small town. I'm not used to this whole big city thing. The whole thing just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm out of my element. And Bruce says, how long you been in Metropolis? And he says, a year. And he says, you ever been to, fill in the blank restaurant? I haven't come up with a name for the restaurant yet. He said, you ever been to this place? And Clark says, no, I mean, we're on kind of a limited budget. We don't really go out much. We pretty much eat at home. He's like, look, best food in Metropolis, I swear to God. Let me take you and Lois out tonight. It's my treat. We'll have a double date. And Clark's like, oh, I didn't realize you were seeing someone. And he's like, well, I'm seeing a lot of people. I'm sure one of them's free tonight. And as Bruce is walking away, he says, hey, Kent, wear something nice. Cut to outside the restaurant after they've had dinner, and Bruce is basically wearing, a button-up shirt and khakis. Bruce's date is wearing just, a blouse and a skirt, real kind of casual. And Lois wearing something similar. And Clark is wearing a full-on suit and tie because he thought this was going to be a swanky place. Turns out it's actually more of a casual establishment. And Bruce says, hey, you guys want to ride? There's plenty of room. And he's pointing to his limousine. And Clark says, actually, I think we're just going to catch a cab, but thank you, though. And he's like, all right, have a good night. See you tomorrow. And Lois and Clark are walking away from the restaurant. And Clark says, I'm feeling a little overdressed. And she says, why? Because you look like a secret agent? He's like, how was I supposed to know that the best food in Metropolis came from a glorified sports bar? And she's like, it's okay, Clark. We cut to the limousine pulling in front of an apartment building. In the back seat, Bruce and his girlfriend are making out, and she's like, you want to come upstairs? And he says, sorry, I can't. I'm working tonight. I'll see you later, though. And she's like, all right. She kisses him one last time. She gets out, and she closes the door, goes up the stairs to her apartment. And then as soon as she's out of the car, the smile fades from Bruce's face. Everything we've seen up to this point was a facade. He's been faking it. Now he's in the back of the car, and he is stoic. All right? He is Batman. And the limo pulls up to this big mansion. And in the background, we hear, because I'm going to lean into this a little bit, I got to explain it, but as it's pulling up to the mansion, we hear, bum, 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 bum. Why? Why would we hear the Batman theme from Danny Elfman's score from Tim Burton's Batman movie? Because you got to remember when this movie came out. This is immediately following the Dark Knight trilogy, okay? And we got Hans Zimmer. He did the score for Man of Steel. And he said that he did not want to do the Batman score for the Batman versus Superman movie. So they had Junkie XL do the Batman stuff, and Hans Zimmer came back to do the Superman stuff, and they kind of mixed it all together. And I figure, hey, if Hans Zimmer's not going to do the Batman stuff again because he already did it for Dark Knight, screw it. Danny Elfman has no problem with reprising the Batman theme as we saw in Justice League. So let's get Danny Elfman to come back and do the Batman score and have Hans Zimmer do the Superman score. So, yeah, I'm going to bring back the Batman theme because it's awesome, all right? So, we hear bum, 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 and the driver gets out of the limo, and it's Alfred, who I, of course, would have played by Jeremy Irons because he is the one element from Batman versus Superman that I would keep. And I'm like, you know what? That was not a great movie, but I think he's the best Alfred we've ever had. So, yeah, I'm bringing back Jeremy Irons as Alfred. And they go down to the Batcave, and their big nemesis, the guy that they're dealing with now, is Black Mask. And you could almost view this as like a loose sequel to the Dark Knight movies, or even a continuation of the Tim Burton movies, you know? Because this is Batman Prime. The point is, like, I'm not doing the old depressed Batman from Dark Knight Returns that they did, you know, in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice that Ben Affleck played. I don't necessarily want a Batman who's been doing this for 20 years and he's all cynical and bitter. I want to see Batman Prime. I want to see Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. That version of Batman, all right? Just played by Bradley Cooper, all right? So he's in his prime. He's down there in the Batcave, and they're studying Black Mask. And Black Mask has taken over all organized crime in Gotham. He's the first crime lord to ever do that. He's taken down the Falcone family. He's taken down the Maroni family. And he is now the top dog of all organized crime in Gotham. And Batman is going head-to-head with him in Gotham City. So we got a little scene in the Batcave where they're doing some detective work. You know how he does. And then he hops into the Batmobile. I like the Batmobile design from Batman v Superman, so he can do something like that. I don't think it needs to be like crazy like the Tim Burton one, like a giant rocket. But yeah, like the one in Dawn of Justice is fine. So he gets into that Batmobile, and he goes and he blows up one of the stash houses where Black Mask has a big supply of whatever drugs he's into. You know, could be heroin, could be cocaine, who knows? But he's got a big drug house, and Batman goes in and blows it up with his Batmobile. All right. Cut to Black Mask. Black Mask is pissed, and he's like, you know what? We just lost millions of dollars. How are we going to recoup our losses? And his henchman is like, I don't know, boss. And he's like, well, I guess we're going to have to get a little bit creative. And Black Mask, by the way, I would have played by Jason Statham because he can do his own stunts and he's got an awesome voice. You're never going to see his face because the mask is already permanent. We're not going to do an origin story. You get it. He's a guy with a skull face. Who cares? And he's the head of crime in Gotham, all right? And you could do a whole backstory thing because if you actually do the research into the comics, there's a really fascinating backstory between Bruce Wayne and the Black Mask. But screw it. He's just a villain, and he's played by Jason Statham. And he's like, okay, I guess we're going to have to get a little bit creative. Okay? Now, we cut to Lex Luthor, and he's in a private office with Jamie Foxx. All right? And Jamie Foxx is playing an assassin named Robert Dubois, who in the comics is known as Bloodsport. And we're not going to call him Bloodsport in this movie. He's just Robert Dubois, all right? So Lex Luthor is meeting with this guy, and he says, the contract is for $100 million. And Dubois just laughs, and he's like, who do you want me to kill, the president? And that is foreshadowing to Lex Luthor becoming President Luthor in the next Superman movie because, yeah, that's got to happen. And he says, no, I want you to kill Superman. And Dubois just starts laughing, and he's like, that's impossible. And Lex pulls out a lead box, and he says, not with this. And he opens it up, and it's a kryptonite bullet. And Dubois is just kind of leaning in and looking at it. He's like, what is that? And he says, all you need to know is that it will pierce his skin and it will kill him. And Dubois says, he picks it up, he looks at it, he says, just one? And Lex says, one shot, one kill. Isn't that the sniper's mantra? Is one not enough? And Dubois says, no, it's enough. So Robert Dubois goes out and he stages an accident. And he lures Superman into a trap, basically. So Dubois is up on top of a skyscraper, and he's looking down at Superman as Superman is saving people, and he takes the shot with this kryptonite bullet from a sniper rifle. And Superman, being faster than a speeding bullet, spins around. He just turns his head toward the sound of the bullet. And because of that, it's off by just a little bit, and instead of a headshot, it grazes his cheek. So it was supposed to hit him in the back of the head, but he turns to face the bullet, and as he looks at it, it slices across his cheek and gets embedded in the ground. And, there's blood that sprays and lands on the sidewalk. And Superman, feels his cheek, and he's like, oh my God, I'm bleeding. What the hell? And he goes down and he picks up the kryptonite bullet. And the way that I'm going to handle kryptonite in this, and I've heard this in different comic book interpretations, is it basically feels like pins and needles all over your body. Like, how your leg falls asleep or your arm falls asleep and the blood flow starts to come back and it hurts. You got pins and needles all over your body. It's like that, but 1,000 times worse and all over. I hear that that's what it's like when heroin addicts are going through withdrawal, when they're in rehab. So it's pins and needles all over your body. So it's like that because what it's doing is it's actually sucking the solar radiation from his cells, and he gets all of his power from solar radiation. So this kryptonite is actually sucking it out of his body, and it's pulling it out of his bloodstream, and that's why it hurts so much. So it's actually physically painful to be around kryptonite. But he's like, I got to figure out what this is. I got to take this bullet somewhere and have it analyzed. So he picks up the bullet and he's carrying it, but it sucks away all his power, so he's just walking. And he can't fly, he can't use his powers, and he's in physical pain carrying this thing around. And he just kind of stumbles through the streets until he can, find a back alley. He climbs up a fire escape, and he goes to the roof where he's hidden a bag of his clothes, his Clark Kent clothes. And one of the little mini subplots we got in this movie is that Clark has not figured out a way to fit his suit underneath his normal Clark Kent clothes. And he doesn't know what to do with his clothes once he changes into Superman. Because this is a big plot hole in all of the Superman movies. Every Superman movie cheats. Every Superman movie cheats. They either do a fade where his clothes just disappear and he turns into Superman, or they do it off screen, or they cheat. They manipulate things so that it wouldn't actually work in real life. Like one of my favorite shots from Superman Returns is when Brandon Routh gets into the elevator as Clark Kent and he flies up the elevator shaft, and he takes off his jacket and his shirt, and he's Superman. Problem is, his pants disappear. His pants and his shoes just disappear. All right? So he's in an elevator as Clark Kent. He flies up, and in the next shot, he takes off his jacket and his shirt, and that's all he does. He takes off his jacket and his shirt. He's not wearing pants. He's not wearing shoes because it's a cheat. It's a cheat that makes a cool shot, but it makes no sense in real life. All right? So we're going to address that later. But basically, Clark can't figure out how to fit his Superman costume underneath his clothes. He's like, the cape gets all bunched up. The boots don't fit inside my shoes. It's just, hot and sweaty in there. It's like I can't make it work, all right? And then even then when I do, I have to ditch my clothes in a phone booth somewhere, and it's just, sometimes I don't get them back. Sometimes it gets stolen. It's like Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming when his backpack keeps going missing, all right? So he goes home to Lois Lane as Clark Kent, and he's got the bullet in his briefcase, which helps shield him a little bit. It's not made of lead, but it puts at least some kind of layer between him and the bullet. And he gives it to Lois, and he's like, this made me bleed. What is this? And she's like, I don't know, but we should hold on to it just in case, and, we don't want somebody else to have it, so let's just keep it. And he's like, all right. Lex Luthor meets up with Robert Dubois again, and Dubois says, look, I just need one more bullet. I can do it. And Lex says, you don't get it. It's not about his strength or his invulnerability. He is faster than a speeding bullet, and you will never get another shot at him, especially now that he knows you're gunning for him. That I guarantee. But you did help me test a theory. You drew blood. And since you've been such a good sport about this, I pulled an Iron Man there where I dropped blood sport into the dialogue. You drew blood, and since you've been such a good sport about this, I'm going to give you $10 million for your efforts. And Bloodsport says, and to keep my mouth shut. Lex says, among other things, yes. They shake hands, and Dubois says, well, at least I'm not walking away empty-handed. He leaves the office, and Lex pulls out his cell phone and says, neither am I. And he calls somebody, and he says, did you get the sample? Good, then let's get started. We cut to Lois and Clark's apartment. They're living together now. It's a year after Man of Steel. And Clark wakes up in a cold sweat, and he yells, Zod! And he's having nightmares about the Battle of Metropolis and killing Zod and all the horrors that he caused since then. And Lois wakes up, and Clark says, I killed them. They were the last Kryptonians, and I killed them. I killed the last people from my homeworld. And I killed a whole bunch of people from Earth. What am I? Like, I'm a monster. I have to turn myself in. Like, I did something wrong, and I am not above the law. I have to turn myself in and answer for my crimes. And Lois is the one who talks him out of it. She's like, there are people who would be dead now if you weren't here to save them. And Clark says, there are people who would be alive now if I hadn't killed them. And she says, but there's nothing you can do about that. You can't change that. What you can do is save people now. I understand that it's everyone's first impulse to seek revenge and to punish you for your crimes, but you're doing a lot more good out here than you would be in a prison, all right? I know that turning yourself in seems like the selfless move, but that's actually selfish. To make yourself feel better by turning yourself in and answering for your crimes when you could be out here helping people, all right? So deal with the stress. Deal with being a martyr because you do more good out here than you would in there. So he's like, all right. Cut to the Kryptonian ship where Lex Luthor is going in and he is using Superman's DNA to create an embryo in a birthing pod. Like we saw in Man of Steel, all these Kryptonians come from eggs like the Matrix, all right? Little embryos that grow on trees. So he's got Superman's blood, and he's used it to create an embryo in this birthing pod on the Kryptonian ship. And he's ordering the embryo to be removed from the ship and delivered to Cadmus Labs, which is, a cloning facility that he owns. So he has the embryo delivered to Cadmus Labs. We cut to a bar where Clark and Bruce are out having a drink. And Clark's got a Budweiser, and Bruce has some kind of, vodka martini, shaken, not stirred, some kind of fancy drink. And the joke here is that they're out drinking, but neither of them really drink, all right? Because Bruce Wayne, if you ever watched the Dark Knight trilogy, he never actually drinks. Every time he pretends to be drunk, he like throws the wine away, or he's just faking being drunk. But he doesn't want to dull his senses because he's a ninja. All right, and Clark, he can't get drunk anyway. So Superman is immune to alcohol, so why would he waste his money? I mean, he's just a lowly reporter. He doesn't go out drinking. So the joke here is that they're out for drinks, but neither of them actually drink, and they call each other out on it. And Clark says, look, it's not that I don't appreciate your generosity, but why are you spending so much time with me? I mean, I would hate for the rest of the Daily Planet to think you're showing favoritism. And Bruce says, because I like you, Kent, you're a wholesome guy, and I'm hoping that some of that's going to rub off on me. And in return, I hope I can get you to lighten up a little bit. Speaking of which, don't you drink? I mean, you've been nursing that beer for the last hour. And Clark says, you're one to talk. You haven't even had a sip of that martini you're drinking. And Bruce says, look, okay, you caught me. Full disclosure, I can't handle my liquor. One drink and I'm flying, which is a reference to 1989 Batman because I'm a nerd. And Clark says, oh, well, I never drink when I drive, which is a reference to 1978 Superman. I never drink when I fly. See, it's like it was meant to be. You got Batman saying, one drink and I'm flying, and Superman says, oh, well, I never drink when I fly. So in this one, of course, he can't say that. So he has to say, oh, I never drink when I drive. And Bruce is like, oh, well, good. You shouldn't. And then Bruce says, they must have taught you some good manners on the old Kent farm, right? Must have been nice. Apple pie, family dinners, all that jazz. And Clark says, I take it things weren't like that for you growing up. And he says, no, you don't know? And he says, no. And he's like, my parents were killed when I was 8 years old. I was raised by my butler. And Clark says, I'm sorry. And Bruce says, hey, man, I've been an orphan for most of my life, so I'm kind of past the whole sympathy thing. And Clark says, well, if it makes you feel any better, technically I'm an orphan too. And Bruce is like, really? He's like, yeah, I mean, the Kents adopted me. My real parents died when I was a kid. I never met them. And Bruce says, huh. Well, I guess we have more in common than I thought. And they clink their glasses together and take a drink. And you see the great irony of this relationship between Clark and Bruce is that Clark thinks that Bruce has it so great, that Bruce is a billionaire and that, Clark is, by comparison, relatively poor. And that, Bruce had this swanky lifestyle growing up and, Clark, lived on a farm. And the irony of their relationship is that Bruce would have traded everything he had to have Clark's life, to have a happy family on the Kent farm and family dinners, all that stuff. That's all he ever wanted. So that's the key dynamic between those two. Cut to Cadmus Labs, where we got Dr. What's his name? He's in the comics. He's an actual comic book character. Dr. Sidney Happerson. Dr. Sidney Happerson, who I would have played by Joe Morton. And I know, you might be thinking, hey, didn't he play Cyborg's father in Justice League? Yeah, he did, but in this alternate timeline that I'm creating, there is no Justice League. There is no Cyborg yet, so I'm just going to cast the best person for the role, and that's Joe Morton. They can cast somebody else as Cyborg's father, all right? So Lex Luthor comes to visit Dr. Sidney Happerson and says, how is our little bioweapon Zero doing? And Happerson says, well, he's stabilized a little bit, but he's still having trouble breathing in our atmosphere, which is a reference to Man of Steel. If you remember, little baby Clark had trouble breathing in our atmosphere. It was like he had asthma or something. So this little baby, same thing. So Lex says, does it have anything to do with his artificial growth acceleration? And Happerson says, well, it'll take time to see how that's going to affect him. When we were analyzing Superman's blood, we saw that, he doesn't just have the DNA from one Kryptonian. He has the DNA for thousands of Kryptonians embedded in his DNA code. We could make an army of Kryptonians if we had to, because he's talking about the Codex. If you remember back in Man of Steel, the Codex is in Superman's blood. He has the potential to create all future generations of Kryptonians, all right? So Lex Luthor says, I have no interest in creating an army of Kryptonians. One will suffice for now. They look in through this window, and the sign on the window says, Subject B-0. And you might be a little bit ahead of me if you're nerdy enough, but we'll get there. And they look in, and in this little cradle, in this, a stark white room, is a little baby, just a little baby sitting in a crib. And then we cut back to Gotham City, where the daughter of a famous rich person has been kidnapped by the Black Mask gang. And they're holding this person hostage for ransom to make up for the losses that they suffered when Batman took out their drug stash. So there is a direct causality here. So Batman's already feeling guilty about this, that it's a direct response to his actions earlier in the movie, destroying their drug house. So Batman's feeling a little bit guilty because it's his fault that this kidnapping happened, because it's a direct retaliation for the drug house being destroyed. So he's already feeling pretty pissed off about that. And he's like, look, I can go to this guy's house. I know who he is. His name is Roman Sionis. I am going to break into his mansion, and I am going to beat a confession out of him, because nobody knows where this daughter is, where she's being held. And she's not like a little kid. That's too dark. She's a full-grown daughter, but her dad is like this rich, 60, 70-year-old billionaire or whatever. So Bruce is like saying to Alfred, I'm going to go beat a confession out of him. I'm going to find out where she is. I'm going to get her back, all right? So he goes to this mansion where Roman Sionis lives, and it starts out as a stealth mission, and I stole a little bit of this from the Arkham games. He's breaking into this place. It starts out as a stealth mission, and then somebody spots him. All hell breaks loose. Gunfire all over the place, explosions, and then we get to have this cool fight scene between Batman and Jason Statham as Black Mask. Just fun, just showing off. And then Superman, boom, drops through the ceiling, and there's a streak that goes around the entire room. All of a sudden, everybody is disarmed. There's a pile of guns in the corner, and Superman blasts it with his heat vision and melts all the guns together. And Batman's like, no. And he doesn't see Superman's face. That's the important point, is that they're in the same room together, but they don't, look at each other. They don't get a good look at each other. So Superman grabs Black Mask and flies him through the ceiling. And Batman's like, no! Superman brings him over to Gotham City Police Department, drops him off and says, here you go, officer, happy to help. And he flies away, thinking he did the right thing. Thing is, Roman Sionis, Black Mask, he's no rat. So he gets into a room with the police and he's like, I ain't saying shit, all right? I guess you guys are screwed. So this famous daughter, the daughter of the billionaire, they find her body the next day. They're too late. They didn't get to her in time because they couldn't get a confession out of Roman Sionis. And Batman knows that he could have gotten a confession. But Superman screwed it up by trying to do the right thing. Cut back to Cadmus Labs. We got Lex Luthor coming in to visit, and this is one of my favorite things. I'll tell you what my actual favorite thing is later. But Lex Luthor comes in to this stark white room, and inside is a little 8-year-old version of Subject B0. And what I would do, which is very exciting to me, is I would cast the same kid from Man of Steel who played Little Clark, who was in the closet at school saying, the world's too big, Mom. I would have that kid come back as the clone of Superman. And Lex walks in and he says, my name is Lex Luthor. Your name is Subject B0. And the kid says, Bizarro. Ah? Yep, Bizarro. He's Bizarro. And Lex says, no, say it with me. B0. Zero. Very good. And no, I'm not smart enough to have come up with that on my own. That's from the comics. That's in the New 52, where he's called Subject B0, and he mispronounces it Bizarro. So I wish I had been smart enough to come up with that. But I did come up with the idea that it stands for Bioweapon Zero, because B0 is kind of an arbitrary name, so I wanted it to actually stand for something. So he's Bioweapon Zero. The idea being that he could be a prototype and that they could make more of him if they needed to. But he's the beginning of this potential living weapon created from Kryptonian cells. The kid's like, who are my parents? And he says, well, biologically speaking, you don't have parents. I mean, Kryptonians are born in birthing pods. They're grown. They're not born. So Zero, we call him Zero, says, who am I? And Lex says, I just told you who you are. And he says, yeah, but why am I here? And Lex says, I am so glad you asked me that question. You see, every Kryptonian is born with a specific function encoded in their DNA. They have a purpose. Doesn't that comfort you? Isn't it nice to know that you're here for a reason? And if you know your Superman lore, this is all going to be just like a dark version of Jonathan Kent, all right? Some people have a problem with the portrayal of Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel. Wait till you get a load of this, all right? So he's like, you are here for a reason. And the kid says, what is my purpose? And he says, you're here to hunt other Kryptonians, to kill them. And he's like, I kill Kryptonians. He's like, yes, very good. And this is why I would cast Bryan Cranston, because look, there are a lot of people who could play Lex Luthor. All right, Mark Strong, Michael Rosenbaum, Billy Zane. Okay, all great choices. Okay, but Bryan Cranston is the only actor I can think of who would play two completely different characters. All right, like Christopher Reeve did back in the 70s. All right, he can play the villain, but he can also be the lovable family man. And I would love to see two completely different versions of this character depending on the situation. And this is him being, it's Walter White and Heisenberg, man. If you've seen Breaking Bad, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so he goes from being, this friendly, family man to being a total supervillain. And I think Bryan Cranston could do an excellent job at that. I'm not the first person to think of that, by the way, but that's why I would pick him over other actors, okay? So we cut back to the Daily Planet where Bruce Wayne is having them write a headline, and they've got the test print out there on the table, and it is "The Folly of Superman," references to Godzilla, the song by Blue Oyster Cult, "The Folly of Superman." And basically, this is an article that is pinning the death of this famous daughter on Superman. And the real irony in the article is that Bruce Wayne is spinning it a little bit, and he's saying that Superman is not a trained police officer, that he interfered with an investigation, and because of that, he got this woman killed. When really, Bruce Wayne's plan was to go outside the law to, do something, vigilante-like to get the results. But he can't say that in this article. It can't be a pro-Batman article because that's drawing too much attention to himself. So he says, ironically, that the police could have gotten it done, but Superman interfered. And Lois says, he's gone too far this time. And Clark says, just let me talk to him. Clark goes into Bruce's office and says, "Bruce, can I talk to you for a second?" And Bruce is like, "Sure, come in." Clark holds up the headline and says, "This is a little much, isn't it? I think we're going too far." And Bruce says, "Good, because up to this point, we haven't gone far enough." Clark says, "Look, when you got here, you said that you believed in the way that the Daily Planet does things, that you cared about truth and justice." And Bruce Wayne says, "This is the truth. And if the people won't see it, we have to make them see it. That's our job." And Clark says, "That's not news, that's propaganda." And Bruce says, "Whatever works." Clark says, "I thought you had more integrity than this." And Bruce says, "Look, you have to be able to tell the difference between optimism and naivete. You can't afford to be this naive. Superman is responsible for killing hundreds of people. He's dangerous." And Clark Kent says, "A world without Superman is dangerous." And that's a reference to the death of Superman again. That one over there. Death of Superman, right there. The middle part of that story is called A World Without Superman. So he says, "A world without Superman is dangerous." Bruce Wayne says, "I guess we'll find out." And Clark kind of storms out. That's really kind of their falling out. They were becoming friends, and now they're like, "Screw you, dude. I was right about you. You're an asshole." All right, so cut back to Cadmus Labs again, and now Clark is basically like 15 or 16. He's the same age that he was. I'm saying Clark. Zero is the same age that Clark was when he saved the school bus, and he found out that he's an alien in Man of Steel. So it's the same kid, same actor. That would be great. I would love that. And the reason I love this is because we're basically watching Man of Steel again, but it's this dark, twisted, alternate reality version of it where he's raised by Lex Luthor instead of the Kents. So, and it's so sad. It's so sad. Kevin Smith would be crying his eyes out at least 3 times in this movie. Kevin Smith would be bawling his eyes out, which, that's my real test. The Kevin Smith test is whether or not Kevin Smith would cry when he watches this movie. And this kid, Zero, is just laying in bed, and he's just staring at the wall. And Lex comes in to check on him, and Zero just asks this innocent question about something that he sees outside. And Lex says, "Zero, are you using your X-ray vision?" And he's like, well, yeah, I just wanted to see outside. And Lex says, you know the rule. You can't use your powers unless we give you permission, okay? You have to stop that or you know what's going to happen. He's like, okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. But could I get a window or something like that? I just want to look outside. This room is just kind of, I just don't like being in here. And Lex says, look, we can't let the world find out about you. We have to keep you a secret. Again, this is the dark version of Jonathan Kent from Man of Steel. He's like, we can't let the world find out about you. They won't understand. You have to be a secret until you're ready. And the kid's like, I understand. It's okay. And as Lex is leaving, the kid says, Dad, I love you. And Lex says, he turns back and he looks at the kid and he says, I'm not your father, Zero. You don't have a father, remember? And the kid's like, right, sorry. And Lex says, try to get some sleep. And he leaves. And I'm like, whoa, my God, man. Just rejected like any love. This kid has been starved for love. And that's one aspect of why he's such a tortured individual. And we'll get to the next part pretty soon. But yeah, he's like, no, none of that love business, boy. You're here to be a weapon, okay? So, and look, if you want to read a little bit deeper into it, I consider Smallville to be valid backstory for Lex Luthor. His dad, Lionel, he never showed him love. That was a sign of weakness, all right? So, like, he wouldn't know how to react to that. He's like, love? Pfft, screw you, kid. He'd just walk out. Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne is making his power armor, his anti-Superman bat suit. Now, while I appreciate that in Dawn of Justice, they used the comic book accurate version of this power armor, as in it was from the Dark Knight Returns comic book, in real life it looks kind of silly. I mean, he's got these big boots that look like he's in Kiss. He's got this big opening on his face, and I was thinking, if you're going to fight Superman, you might want to cover your entire face. It just seems like it's not practical. And the whole thing just kind of, it honestly, it reminds me of Homer Simpson's bear fighting suit on The Simpsons, in the episode where he has to build a homemade suit of armor to fight a bear. Or like the Mark I armor from Iron Man. So I would lean a little bit more into the Mark II version of the armor from Iron Man, what became the War Machine armor, the kind of silver Iron Man suit. It actually looks a lot like, what I have in my head looks a lot like the Arkham Knight armor. So if you go Google Arkham Knight, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's basically the Batman suit. It's just a little bit leaner, more compact, and it's made of metal. And it's robotic, and he's got the glowing blue eyes, which we like because it's like the comic book. Blue, white, whatever. They're lit up, that's the point. And his face is covered, all right? His whole face is covered. Now, this basically gives him the power of Iron Man. So you might ask, okay, if he's got this suit, why doesn't he just wear it all the time for crime-fighting purposes? And the answer is that he's not Tony Stark. And because he's not Tony Stark, he has not invented the arc reactor. So without an arc reactor, this thing just runs on normal electricity. So it only lasts for like an hour. He can charge it up, but then he can use it for an hour, and then it just dies. It opens up, and he has to get out. So that's why he can't use it all night long. Plus, he's a ninja anyway, like I said, so he prefers the stealth approach if he can. So unless it's an emergency where he has to fight somebody as powerful as Superman, the suit is not his style. The big mechanical robot suit is not his style. But in this case, he's going to make an exception. So he's talking to Alfred, and sort of like in the theatrical version of this movie, Alfred is going to kind of question the hypocrisy of Batman a little bit, kind of play devil's advocate, if you will. So he'll ask questions like, what exactly is your problem with this Superman character? And Bruce would say, he killed people. And Alfred's going to say, you've killed people. Now, I know this is a controversial point for DC fans. Like, Batman can't kill people, Superman can't kill people. Here's the thing. Nobody makes a big deal when the Avengers kill people, all right? People laugh when Iron Man kills people. That's like a gag that they do. All right, all the Avengers are killers. Even Spider-Man in Endgame finally activates his instant kill because he's killing aliens. They're not people. Which, by the way, yes, the Spider-Man writer actually had a big problem with. But it's impractical. You can't have a war, which is going to happen later on, you know, when this is the Justice League versus Darkseid, all right? You can't have a war when you have everybody on the team with a no-killing policy. It's kind of ridiculous to make it black and white like that, to say it is always okay to kill people or it is never okay to kill people. No, sometimes it's okay to kill people. So here's my rule for this universe, all right? I basically treat Batman and Superman like police officers, okay? So if it would be acceptable, legal, and ethical for a police officer to take down a criminal, I think that it would be reasonable for Batman or Superman to make the same call. So, you know, if, honestly, like, if the Joker is opening fire on a crowd of people with a machine gun, is Batman fully within his rights to kill him to protect those people? Yes. A police officer would kill Joker in that scenario. So, is it acceptable if the Joker is completely unarmed, he's on his knees, and Batman just walks up to him and breaks his neck? No, because that would not be acceptable for a police officer to do, all right? That's called execution. It's not justified action on their part. So, that's my policy. That's how I deal with that, because having a no-killing rule, you just end up like with every Spider-Man movie where the villain finds some way to accidentally kill himself in every movie, all right? You eventually have to kill the bad guy, usually. And if the hero has a no-killing policy and it's black and white... Oh, and by the way, Batman kills in every Dark Knight movie. You disagree with me? All right. He sets fire to Ra's al Ghul's house, and then the fake Ra's al Ghul gets crushed by a beam that fell from the ceiling. Batman killed him. All right. In The Dark Knight, he tackles Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent falls, breaks his neck. He killed Harvey Dent. All right. And in The Dark Knight Rises, he launches a rocket or machine gun, I forget, at the vehicle that Talia al Ghul is driving. And then, because of that, she falls off a bridge and crashes and dies in the crash. Batman killed her, all right? You can get into the semantics of it like the ground killed him, you know? It's not Batman who killed her, the crash killed her. Or, yeah, the building killed him. He should have gotten out faster, you know, whatever. It's Batman kills people, all right? And Superman used to kill people in the comics. I know we're not big on that, and it is an abuse of power, but there are certain situations where I think it's justified. So that's going to be my stance on killing in this story. So Alfred calls him out on it. He says, "You've killed people." And Bruce says, "Only as a last resort and never innocents." You know, Superman killed hundreds of people. He didn't even care. You know, it was collateral damage, all right? It's just sheer recklessness on his part. So Alfred asks, "Is your intention to kill him now?" And Bruce is like, "No, my intention is to arrest him." And even then, Alfred is like, "You know, you of all people should know that being a superhero comes with a bit of a learning curve." And Bruce says, "Someone as powerful as Superman doesn't get the luxury of a learning curve, all right? There's too much at stake." And Alfred says, "Can you honestly say that you wouldn't have made the same mistakes if you were born with his power?" And Bruce says, "We'll never know, will we? I'm just a man." And then we cut back to Bizarro, and he's now fully grown. He's Henry Cavill, all right? And that's the fun part about this, is that we get to see Henry Cavill play two different parts. He gets to play Superman and Bizarro, so that's going to be fun in this fictional movie that doesn't exist. It's going to be fun. So he overhears Lex talking to Dr. Happerson, and Lex says that Zero is going to die soon because the accelerated growth is causing him to age rapidly, so he's going to be dead in a few weeks. And Bizarro didn't know that. He didn't know that he was going to be dead in a few weeks. So when Lex comes to check in on him, he says, "Lex, is it true? Am I going to die in a few weeks?" And Lex is like, "Were you listening to me?" And he says, "I overheard. It was an accident. I'm sorry." And Lex says, "Zero, you have to learn to control your powers. That's no excuse. I'm sorry. You know what has to happen next." And Bizarro just like loses it. He's like, no, no, please, I'm sorry. And Lex turns off all the lights and walks out, closes the door. The room is pitch black. And in the comics, Bizarro is afraid of the dark. And I'm going to say this is why he's afraid of the dark. And he just loses it. He's just screaming. And like, and you in the audience would be like, what is he freaking out about? My God, why does he hate the dark so much? The wall panels slide down, and he's surrounded by bars of kryptonite. And he's being tortured with kryptonite. And he's just screaming. He's like, no, Lex, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Please stop. And we cut away. We don't know how long that goes on. Could be a few minutes, could be a few hours, could be all day. But we don't get to see. It's sort of like the Winter Soldier in Captain America the Winter Soldier, when we see Bucky being brainwashed and they're like electrocuting his brain. We just cut away because we don't know how long that goes on. We don't know how long of a process this is. So that's the two aspects of this character and why he turned out kind of a bad seed. One, denied all love, but punished with extreme physical pain whenever he misbehaved. So those are the core differences between him and Superman. So they're doing experiments on him now, and this is what he's been doing. This is his whole life. He's never seen the sun. That's the other thing. Bizarro has never seen natural sunlight except with his X-ray vision. He can see through the wall and he can see the sun. But they've been blasting him with artificial solar radiation. So, it's just, they just put him in a chamber and they blast him with solar radiation for an hour and basically charge him up like a battery. And then they just run tests on him. They have him fly, they have him run, they have him use, heat vision, whatever. But they're just testing him. He's a lab rat. It's everything that the Kents feared would happen to Clark is happening to Bizarro. And finally, he's had enough. And he's testing his heat vision. And instead of hitting the target, he turns and he cuts a scientist in half. All right? And he goes on this massacre and he kills everyone in Cadmus Labs except for Dr. Happerson, who escapes. All right? And we cut back to Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor gets another phone call, and he says, I see. Was anyone hurt? All right, I'll be right there. And he hangs up, and he says, he's ready. Which, it's a little cold-hearted. It's a little bit one-dimensional, a mustache-twirling villain that he doesn't give a crap about all these dead people. But I bet Bryan Cranston could sell it, He's like, he just found out about all this, death and killing, and he's like, all right, he's ready. Survival of the fittest. It's what he was raised to believe. So, Bizarro, he's just wandering the streets of Metropolis. He escaped, and he's just walking. And he's not wearing a Superman costume, and he's not wearing Clark Kent's clothes. He's just kind of in between. And he's just walking around, like, just looking at the city. And he's just doing this all day long. He's just walking around, just looking at the outside world. He's looking at the sun. He's never seen the sun before. He's like, wow, this is awesome. I feel great. Finally, he's crossing in front of the Daily Planet, which makes sense because it's like the beacon of all of Metropolis. It's like the biggest building in Metropolis. And he's wandering in front of the Daily Planet. And Lois sees him out there, runs down to the lobby, comes out to talk to him and says, oh my God, Clark, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're not dressed up as Superman. You're not dressed up as Clark Kent. Like, pick a lane, man. Like, people are going to figure out who you are. And he's like, do I know you? And, of course, she thinks that this is some kind of after effect of the kryptonite because they don't know what kryptonite is. They don't know what it does. They don't know if it might have long-term effects, which is one of the things that she would have said earlier when she says, hey, we should hold on to this bullet. Which is like, we don't know how this is going to affect you long term. We need to keep an eye on you. So she sees Bizarro and she's like, oh my God, you lost your memory. That thing gave you amnesia. Let me take you home, all right? And they go back home to the apartment. And like I said, Clark Kent has not figured out yet how to make the whole Superman and Clark Kent quick change work, all right? He has two separate sets of clothes, like Batman, like Iron Man. He's got to go home to change. He doesn't do the whole, like, keep it under his clothes thing. So he's got his Superman suit in his closet at home or in a drawer or some secret place where it wouldn't be found. And Bizarro, when he was in his cell at Cadmus Labs, he only had newspaper headlines to read. All he had was all this stuff that's been churned out by the Daily Planet about Superman, about his enemy, all right? And Lex has told him, look, this is a Kryptonian. You got to kill him. This is the only one we know about, but there could be more. So learn everything you can about him. This is your target. One day you're going to be out there and you're going to be sent to kill him, all right? So now he's in this apartment and he's looking around, and Lois is like, your name is Clark Kent. You're also Superman. You're also Kal-El. You came from Krypton. You were raised by the Kents. And Bizarro is smart enough, because he's young, relatively speaking. He's only been around for a few weeks, but he's smart enough to know. I'm like, oh, Superman lives here. He's my target. I want to learn as much as I can about this guy. So finally, she shows him the Superman suit, and he's looking at it, and he feels a little bit of kinship, with this symbol, the House of El, because it's his house too, genetically speaking. If you think about the House of El, they were all born in birthing pods, but they came from a certain DNA strand. So it's his house too. He's like, oh my God, this is like the family I never had. And Lois is like, do you want to put it on? And he's like, yes. And we cut to him wearing the Superman suit and looking at himself in the mirror. And the fun thing here is when he looks at himself in the mirror, the S is backward. Yes. When he looks at himself in the mirror, the S is backwards. So he's like, oh yeah, like this is what I should look like. This is the real me. Forget all that lab rat stuff that I was doing. Like, this is who I am. And then all of a sudden, the apartment door opens up and Clark walks in and he's like wearing his glasses and he's carrying a bag of groceries. He's like, hi, honey, I'm home. Holy shit, who's that? And she's like, uh-oh. And Bizarro super speeds up to Clark, grabs him by the throat. And this is sort of a reference to like Superman 3 where Superman fights Clark Kent. He grabs Clark Kent by the throat and he says, where are the other Kryptonians? How many of them are there? And Clark says, one. I'm the last one. And Bizarro's like, huh. And he's just about to break Clark's neck. And all of a sudden, he starts screaming in pain. And behind him, Lois is holding up the kryptonite bullet. And she's like, be gone, Satan. And he starts wandering to the window. And he's just trying to get to fresh air, to sunlight. And he looks up and he sees the sun. He's like, yeah, that's what I need right now. It's like water in the desert, And because the kryptonite is starting to drain his power, he flies and he's kind of vroom, 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 like, it's like his jetpack's broken, but he's going toward the sun and he just disappears over the horizon. And Lois is like, what? Why are there two of you? And Clark's like, who the hell was that? What was that about? And neither of them know what to make of this right now. All they know is that there's another Superman out there and he's bad and he's got his suit. He took his suit. All right? Little brother just went in there, kicked your ass, and took your suit. All right? And then Lois says, we got to find a way to stop him because clearly he is a dangerous individual. Let me take this bullet and I'll go fight him. And and Superman's like, are you out of your damn mind? Like, you're actually going to go off and fight that guy with a bullet? I don't care if that drains his powers. He'll kill you. And she's like, well, maybe we can find a way to weaponize it. And he's like, it's a bullet. It's pretty well weaponized. She's like, make more of it, Turn it into a bomb or multiple bullets, something like that we can use against him. And Clark's like, we don't have those kinds of resources. She's like, no, but maybe we know somebody who does. And he says, no. You cannot give that bullet to Bruce Wayne. He hates Superman. He's going to use it against me. She's like, well, we don't have a choice because there's another bad Kryptonian out there and he is going to cause some damage, all right? So she's made the decision. She's going to go give the bullet to Bruce Wayne and say, find a way to make more of these because we need to kill that guy. And Clark's like, fine, if you're going to do that, I got to go off and fight him. And she's like, well, you can't fight him the way that you look now. You can't fight him as Clark Kent. People are going to figure out who you are. You need a suit. And he's like, what? a red bed sheet and a blue leotard? We don't have time to make a homemade costume right now. And she's like, no, but you said you got your suit from the Fortress of Solitude, right? The Kryptonian ship. All right, we're not calling it the Fortress yet, but the Kryptonian ship. She says, you got your suit from the Kryptonian ship, right? And he's like, yeah. She's like, well, could you get another one? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I'd have to sneak on, but I guess I could do that. She's like, all right, go get another suit. And then you can be Superman and fight him as Superman, and the world can see that he's not you, there's two of you. And he's like, all right, fine. You go see Bruce Wayne, I'll go to the ship. Cut back to Cadmus Labs, where the mess is being cleaned up, all the evidence is being covered up, and Lex is just looking around at all the devastation, all the damage that's been done at Cadmus Labs, and it's just him and Dr. Happerson and the cleaning crew that's covering it up. And Dr. Happerson says, what are we gonna do? He just got out. Do you have any idea how much damage he could cause? And Lex says, he's going to seek out his target. All he's going to do is look for Superman, and he's going to kill him. And Dr. Happerson says, then what? I mean, we kill one Kryptonian, and now we got another one loose out there who won't come back to us. And Lex says, you said yourself he's going to be dead in 3 weeks. He's like, yeah, but imagine how much damage he could do in those 3 weeks. Lex says, that won't happen. Zero has had a kryptonite pellet, a lead-lined kryptonite pellet in his brain since he was conceived in that birthing pod, all right? So as soon as Superman is dead, all I have to do is push a button, and that kryptonite pellet is going to explode in his brain and kill him. And Happerson's like, dude, you got issues. But yeah, that's the same thing from Suicide Squad. That's how you control villains. You put a bomb in their head, and you have your thumb on the trigger at all times. But it's a lead-lined kryptonite bullet, so that's why Bizarro doesn't even know it's there, and it's not affecting him because lead protects Kryptonians from kryptonite. Speaking of kryptonite, Lois Lane goes to Wayne Manor with the kryptonite bullet, knocks on the door. Alfred answers it, and she says, I'm here to see Bruce Wayne. Bruce shows up at the door, and he's like, Lois, what are you doing here? And she says, this is going to sound really weird, but there are two Supermen out there, and one of them is good and the other one's bad. And Bruce is like, what's the difference? I mean, even if I did believe you, I think they're both bad. And she's like, look, you got to trust me on this. This thing here can kill the bad Kryptonian. It'll kill Superman too, but please focus on the bad one. And she gives it to him. And he says, where did you get this? And she says, don't ask questions. And he says, this is called kryptonite. It's a radioactive substance from the planet Krypton that can kill Kryptonians. And she's like, how the hell do you know that? And he says, don't ask questions. And she says, please, just like find a way to mass produce this stuff or weaponize it or something so that we can use it against the bad one. But please don't hurt the real Superman. And he's like, I'll do whatever I can, all right? Thanks for bringing me this. And he goes back inside, and she leaves. And he brings that bullet down to the Batcave, and he's talking to Alfred, and Alfred says, you're not planning on using that against Superman, are you? And he says, the plan hasn't changed. I'm not an executioner, but it'll help to have this as a last resort just in case things don't go my way. And besides, we got to suit up now, all right? No matter what, something bad's about to happen. Either there's an evil Superman out there who's about to kill a bunch of people, or the real Superman is going to go fight him, and it's going to be Zod all over again, and it's going to destroy half of Metropolis. I got to go now before history repeats itself. So he starts suiting up in the metal suit, all right? And he tucks the bullet into his utility belt, and he brings it with him. Cut back to Metropolis, where we're at the Kryptonian ship, and there are a whole bunch of government agents inside the ship. And they're just, doing their investigation. They've set up a whole thing in there. And in a blur, they all vanish from the ship. And all of a sudden, they're all standing outside the ship, and the door's locked behind them, and they can't get back in. Superman is in the same room that he was in when he got his first suit in Man of Steel. And Jor-El comes back. Jor-El, and he's all glitchy because Zod tried to erase him in Man of Steel. But I want him back, so he's back. All right, so he's just kind of glitchy though. He's flickering, and some of the words are garbled. And while Superman is on the ship talking to Jor-El, he learns that the ship has actually been gradually repairing itself for the last year. And this is something that we might have heard earlier when Lex Luthor is getting the embryo out of the birthing pod, that the ship is actually healing itself. Like there are reconstructive nanites pulling the thing back together, and Jor-El's program is reconstructing itself after it was deleted. So this whole ship can heal itself. And Jor-El asks, hey, where do you want to go? And Clark's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, the ship's drives are now operational. We can leave if you want. And Superman's like, oh, that's awesome. I can't go right now, but you go take this ship over to Antarctica because, goddammit, I want a Fortress of Solitude. All right, that's me. That's not him. Clark asks, you know how I got a suit here, my, Superman suit? And could you make me another one? Is there another suit on board somewhere? And Jor-El says, the ship's computer can make any suit you want. Just give it its specifications. And Clark says, I have a few ideas. And this is where we get to address all of the issues that he's had with this suit up to this point. And all the issues that the audience has had with this suit. Cut back to the Batcave, where Batman is getting into the Batwing, and he's flying out of the Batcave. All right, so the Batwing, I don't really like the one in Dawn of Justice or Dark Knight Rises. The one from Tim Burton's Batman is all right. It's a little on the nose. This is weird, but in the animated film Batman Under the Red Hood, there's one that looks kind of like the one from Tim Burton's Batman, but it looks a little bit more streamlined. The wings are a little bit more angular. I would like to see that version of the Batwing, all right? So he gets into that, and that's, who cares? But he gets into that thing, and he flies away, and he's heading toward Metropolis. Back to the Kryptonian ship, where Jor-El says, suit fabrication complete. And Clark says, show me. And the door opens, and we don't see the suit. We see Clark's reaction to the suit. And this is in a deleted scene in Justice League, by the way, when he's strolling through the Kryptonian ship and doors are opening, showing him different Superman suits. And this one, it's that shot. I stole it. He's just looking, and we see a close-up of his face, but we don't see what he's looking at. And I told you, up to this point, we've been having Hans Zimmer do the score, all right, for Superman stuff. It's reprising the Man of Steel theme, okay? But at this point, when he looks at that suit, and we don't see the suit, we just hear the door open, we see the close-up of him, and we hear dun, 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 dun. And then he steps off of the ship, all right? I assume the government agents just ran off somewhere because they're not around anymore, all right? And as he steps off the ship, we see the boots, red boots. We see the cape. Camera wraps around. We see the shield, the Superman shield. And finally, we see Superman in the full suit. And this one looks a lot more like the New 52 suit. It's got a red belt. It's bright red and blue and yellow. Okay, it's not the washed out colors that the Man of Steel suit had. It looks kind of like the one that we've seen on Supergirl, all right? And actually, there are some problems that I have with the Superman suit. I think the lines are too flat, like the belt looks like just like this awkward rectangle around his waist, and the tops of the boots are flat. I saw a Photoshop version where the belt buckle actually is a Superman shield, but without the S. And the boots have little cuts into them, and it's a little bit more angular, and the belt is more angular. That looks cooler. But something like that, a New 52 costume, all right? And he's got the red belt, but bright colors. And he steps off the ship, and you hear, bum, 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 because he's frickin' Superman, damn it. All right? And this is not about it being a throwback or nostalgic or retro. It's the Superman theme, for God's sake, all right? It's like the James Bond theme. I don't care what decade it is. I don't care who's playing them. I don't care if you reboot the franchise. The James Bond theme is the James Bond theme, all right? And you can write new music for it, all right? Casino Royale has a great score, and 99% of it does not use the James Bond theme, all right? They wrote a great original Casino Royale theme, but there are 2 places in the entire movie where they use the James Bond theme that I could hear. The first time, they just hint at it when he puts on his tuxedo, all right? Like halfway through the movie, he puts on his tuxedo for the first time and he looks at himself in the mirror and we just hear just a little bit of ba-da, 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 because it's just trying to escape. Like, it's like, he's James Bond, sort of, almost, but he's not there yet. So you just get a little hint of it. But then at the very end, you get the name's Bond, James Bond. Smash cut and ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-ba-da-da. And then you do the whole James Bond thing because they earned it, all right? And you could even make the argument that in Man of Steel, they didn't earn the Superman theme, okay? So, again, it's not about being retro or any of that stuff. It's the Superman theme. It lasts forever. They used it on Smallville. They used it in Shazam. They used it in Justice League. They used it in Superman Returns. It is the Superman theme, all right? It's not debatable, okay? And if you can't do better, just use it, all right? It already exists, okay? You don't rewrite the Rocky theme. You don't rewrite the Star Wars theme. And you don't rewrite Superman. And as Superman is standing there wearing his Superman costume, and we're hearing the Superman music, just the build up to it, not the ba 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 ba, not the whole big thing, but just the beginning part when we see the suit. Very much inspired by Casino Royale again. But as he's standing there, the ship takes off and it's heading for Antarctica or the North Pole or wherever. It's the North Pole. It is the North Pole. That's where he usually hangs out. So it's heading off there because Superman needs a fortress of solitude. And Superman takes off toward the sun, all right? So the ship is going north and Superman's going west, okay? He's heading to the last place he saw Bizarro going, all right? And then Batman in the Batwing, speeding right behind him. He's got him on his radar and he's about to intercept, okay? Now, this seems to be the appropriate time to talk about power level, all right? Because I've heard a lot of people say that Superman is just not an interesting character because he's too powerful. And that's true if you let him be, okay? So if he can fly around the earth and turn back time, yeah, he's too powerful. If he can freeze an entire lake with his freezing breath and carry it over to a chemical plant and drop it on the building to put out a fire, yeah, he's too powerful, okay? If he can move the moon with his hands, yeah, he's too powerful. But does he need to be that powerful to still be Superman? And I would argue no. Smallville went on for 10 years. 10 years. It was over 200 episodes. And not once did I ever think he's too powerful. Nobody's ever a threat to him. Because he was powerful. Like, he's more powerful than a human, of course. But they always had him fight villains that were at, like, equal power level to him, or at least a credible threat to him. So all that it takes to be Superman is to be a superhero with multiple powers, okay? That's really all he is. He's not a god. He can't do everything. He's not unstoppable. He just has a variety of powers. He's, sort of like Vision from the Avengers, okay? But that's not actually who I'm going to base it on. I'm going to say easiest shortcut to understand how powerful Superman is in my version, he's Iron Man, all right? What does that mean? He's bulletproof. He can fly. He can fly at supersonic speeds. He can shoot lasers. But he can still be damaged. He can still be hurt, okay? So is Iron Man way more powerful than the average human? Yeah. But is he invincible? Despite his comic book title, no, all right? He is not the invincible Iron Man. So if you think about this correlation, every time the Iron Man suit gets a dent in it, that's a bruise for Superman. Every time a piece of it gets shredded, that is a cut. Every time a piece of the armor breaks, that's a broken bone, okay? So Superman can be hurt, okay? But he is way more powerful than the average human, and he still has all the powers of Superman, all right? Even Tony Stark has X-ray vision. We see him use it in Endgame when he has his glasses to find the Tesseract. So, yeah, he's just a superhero with a wide variety of powers. That does not make him invincible, okay? So, now that we've established that, I said earlier that Batman basically has an Iron Man suit right now. And even though it only lasts an hour before it has to be recharged again, he is now equal to Superman in power, okay? That's the important point here. So in Dawn of Justice, they only became equal when he used kryptonite. In this case, they are already equal, and kryptonite actually gives him the edge and puts him over Superman, okay? So for right now, they're equal power levels, and right now, Batman is in the Batwing, okay? So we got this little dogfight thing, which was a huge missed opportunity. Why the hell didn't they do a dogfight in Dawn of Justice? That would have been awesome. All right, so Batman is in pursuit. He's chasing Superman, and he's blasting at him with his machine guns. And Superman pulls back, which, you know, we saw it in Return of the Jedi. We saw it in Iron Man. Yes, it's an old trick, but it works. Superman pulls back and falls behind the Batwing and uses his heat vision to blast the engines, okay? The Batwing starts spinning out, and it's got smoke coming out of its engines, but as it spins around and faces Superman, it fires a burst of machine gun fire right at his forehead and boom, knocks him unconscious. That's right. Bullets from that machine gun, high caliber bullets fired at high rate of speed, boom, knock Superman unconscious. Superman falls and crashes into the ground like a meteorite, all right, and leaves a crater in the street. And Batman ejects from the Batwing, and his, Iron Bat suit has a glider and a jetpack on it. So he's got the big wings, kind of like we saw in Batman Returns. I guess they used it in Batman Begins, too. But he's basically got like big retractable wings, actually a little bit more like Falcon or the Vulture from the Marvel movies, all right? So he comes down for a soft landing. He's just like, boom, and his wings fold up. And he walks up to Superman. Superman wakes up when he hits the ground, and he crawls out of this crater. And he's down on one knee, and he looks up at Batman, and he uses his X-ray vision. And he's looking at him, and he says, "Bruce Wayne?" Batman stops, and he's looking down at him, and he says, "Clark Kent." And Superman's like, "What?" And Batman says, "You don't have to be the world's greatest detective to see through that disguise, Clark. You ever think of wearing a mask?" And Superman's like, "Look, you gotta let me go. I gotta go fight this other guy who looks just like me," which again sounds like total BS. But Batman says, "You're the second person today to tell me that story. I'm guessing Lois knows your secret." And Superman says, "Please, we don't have time for this." And Batman says, "I can't let you have another slugfest in the middle of Metropolis with another Kryptonian. Even if your intentions are good, it's going to happen exactly the same as last time." And Superman says, "No, it won't. I promise it won't." And Batman says, "I can't take that risk. Come on, I'm taking you in." And he tries to arrest Superman. Superman, boom, flies away, and Batman, boom, takes off with his jetpack, and he launches his grappling hook around Superman's ankle, yanks on it, pulls Superman back, and punches him in the face. And they crash again. They go back down, all right? And they have this fight in an unpopulated area, just like in Dawn of Justice, because we can't be a hypocrite here. And basically, I'm not going to write all the stunts blow by blow here, but they just basically beat the crap out of each other, and it's an even match. It's evenly matched until Batman finally has to play his trump card, and he whips out the kryptonite bullet, and Superman loses his powers. So think about that like if Tony Stark lost his Iron Man suit, all right? Which we've seen before. We've seen it in Iron Man 3, where, it's like if the suit goes away, he's exposed. He can't fight back. So It's like that. Once the kryptonite comes out, now Superman is just a regular guy, so Batman has the advantage. Now it's Iron Man just trying to arrest a regular person. And Superman's like, please, you can't do this. Bad things are going to happen if you put me in prison. All right? And then behind Batman, about a mile away, boom, Bizarro lands. And this is one of the fun things that this is my favorite thing. I told you I was going to tell you what my favorite thing is I used the Man of Steel suit as the Bizarro suit, the washed out, faded Bizarro suit. And now Superman's got this bright Superman suit. So using what was, criticized in the previous movie to feed into, the current story and make it seem like it was planned that way all along. I love that. But also, thematically, the reason why this works better than Doomsday is because, like, Doomsday, see that? All right, right there. Right there. That is the death of Superman. It deserves its own movie, all right? It doesn't need to be a 20-minute tag at the end of this Batman versus Superman movie, okay? But the reason why I picked Bizarro as the thing that kind of brings them together and it's another threat that they can face is because Bizarro represents everything that Batman hates about Superman, but he also represents everything that Superman hates about himself, okay? All the fear that they have, all of the worry that power is going to be misused, it's all there personified in Bizarro. So it's an actual external force that they can fight, okay? Doomsday kind of came out of nowhere in Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice. So just saying, it took me like 2 minutes to come up with a better villain than Doomsday for this scenario. I'm like, Metallo? No, it doesn't really make any sense. He wouldn't really be a threat to both of them. We could have Brainiac, but I want to save him for the death of Superman. We could have Zod come back. No, Doomsday, we're saving him. Bizarro. What about Bizarro? Oh my God, that's perfect. That's about how long it took for me to come up with Bizarro, okay? So, Batman turns and Bizarro just lands in Metropolis and he yells, Superman! And Batman's just looking at him. He's like, what the hell? And while Batman is distracted, Superman tries to use his heat vision, and his eyes are flickering because it's not working. His solar energy has been drained. But he concentrates, and he summons all the energy he can, and he does one small burst at Batman's jetpack while his back is turned. And Batman feels the little heat burst in his back, and he turns to face Superman, and just as he does that, Superman knocks the bullet out of his hand, and the bullet goes flying. And then Superman starts to get his powers back, all right? And it's daylight, it's not nighttime like in the theatrical, movie that actually came out. It's daytime, all right? Sun's still out. So Superman is getting recharged as we speak. And he actually cripples Batman's suit. He breaks the leg on the suit. Not Batman's leg, because that's mean. But he breaks the leg on Batman's suit. So basically, he can't chase him, all right? So finally, Superman knocks him down, and Superman has to win this fight, okay? I know that's the obvious choice, all right? Because in Dawn of Justice, you say, obviously, Superman's going to win, but Batman has to win because it's more interesting or whatever. But the problem with that is that if Batman wins, Superman goes to jail, and he can't go to jail. He has to fight Bizarro. So Superman has to win because it's the only way he can move on to his objective, all right? And in a fight like this, it's usually better to have the more mature, clear-headed one win the fight because he's got to, put a lecture on the one who lost. So Superman basically tells him the same thing that Lois told him early on, and he says, look, Bruce, I want to go to prison, okay? I definitely deserve to be punished for what I did, but that's not going to help anybody right now. So if you want to come get me later, fine. And if you want to help me, you can help me. That's fine too. Either way, I'm going to go stop that guy, all right? So stay here or not, I don't really care. And Superman flies away. And he goes to downtown Metropolis, boom, lands in front of Bizarro. And First thing Superman does, and again, this is kind of cool because they can just kind of circle each other and look at each other, and it's Superman versus Bizarro, but the Bizarro that he's fighting looks like Superman from the end of Man of Steel. So this villain, this character that we've all been hating from the end of Man of Steel, who caused all this damage, who's been this figure of controversy, Superman, with the new suit, is looking at him, all right? He's looking at all the worst qualities of Man of Steel, basically. And it's showing growth. It's showing change because he sees that and he's like, I can't be that anymore. I have to do better than last time. He's looking at himself in the mirror, okay? So, same thing goes down as last time, but this time, Superman is pulling those Christopher Reeve moments where he's like, no, stop the people, please. You know? And he actually grabs Bizarro and flies him up into space and fights him in space, away from people. And it's Bizarro who keeps driving him back into the ground to terrorize people. And Superman is constantly getting in the way, stopping cars from exploding, getting people out of the way of the debris, saving people, like in Superman 2 when the other Kryptonians are fighting. Superman is always worried about the other people who are endangered. And Batman sees this, and he's like, huh. And what he's thinking is, oh my God, he actually has learned his lesson. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. And he starts dragging himself over to downtown Metropolis. But it takes a while because he's got a bum leg on his suit. And he can't fly. So he's just kind of dragging himself over. So Bizarro is just pounding Superman into the ground. And Superman, even though they're genetically identical, Superman is at a disadvantage because, one, Bizarro was raised to kill. He's programmed to kill. He has no love, and he was punished mercilessly. So he is a soldier. He's damn near a robot who will not hesitate to hurt innocent people to get to Superman. But also, Superman just got done fighting Batman. He's tired, okay? So Bizarro is just beating him into the ground, and he's about to kill him. And Batman, he's taking the kryptonite bullet, and he's jamming it into his grappling gun. Bizarro stands up, and he's about to blast Superman with his heat vision. All of a sudden, boom! Batman's grappling hook stabs into his shield. It sticks into his chest. And he's like, what the hell? And Batman yanks on the cord, and the hook comes out, but there's this little glowing green hole in the center of his chest. He launched the bullet, boom, into his chest, and then takes the hook out. And Bizarro just kind of stumbles. He falls over, and he's in incredible pain. He's like, oh, God, why? Ow, you know? And Superman, because he's Superman, goddammit, crawls over to Bizarro, crawls over to the guy who almost just killed him, and says, hold still, I'm going to get the bullet out, all right? And Batman's watching this and saying, my God, this guy has a lot more compassion than I gave him credit for, you know? And as Superman is reaching for the bullet, Bizarro just kind of like grabs him by the hand, and he's just holding his hand, and a tear is coming down his eye. This is the second part that's going to make Kevin Smith cry. The first part is the X-ray vision kid, like, can I have a window, Dad? No! The second part is he's got one tear, and Superman's just holding his hand as he's dying, and Bizarro says, I'm sorry, Lex. I'm sorry. Please stop. I'm sorry. And Batman is like, Lex? Lex Luthor? And Superman turns, he's like, oh, hell no. And we can establish that Superman has heard of Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor is all big on the anti-Kryptonian initiative and all that stuff. And Superman's like, oh, no. Lex Luthor is behind this. Somehow he did this. And Bizarro dies. And Superman takes off, and he goes to LexCorp Tower, all right? And Lex is waiting there in his private office. Superman bursts through the doors, and he's all beat up. He already looks like a wreck, man. He's like Rocky at this point. He's been in 2 big fights back to back. And Lex Luthor's just sitting there behind the desk, and he's like, Superman, It's about time we finally meet. Looks like you've seen better days, though. Can I get you a drink? And Superman walks up to him behind the desk and grabs him by the jacket, and he's like, what did you do? And he's like, I didn't do anything. He says, you created another version of me or something, and you sent him to kill me. And he's like, can you prove that? And the whole point is there's no evidence. He's not going to go to jail for this. And Superman's like, I'm going to stop you. And all of a sudden, he starts getting weak. He starts falling back. And he's like, what the hell? Not again. And he looks down, and Lex Luthor is wearing a kryptonite ring. Yeah, he's wearing a kryptonite ring. Come on. All right. Anyone ever read the comics? Come on. Or seen Smallville. Again, Smallville. All right? Don't underestimate the power of Smallville. All right? He's wearing a kryptonite ring. And Superman is stumbling back. And Lex just beats the crap out of him. All right? And finally, he's got him down on the ground. And he grabs Superman by the throat. And he says, hang on. I want to make sure I get this right. I want you to remember, Superman, in all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you. Yeah, I know. I know that's Batman's line. But it fits this scenario that Lex Luthor would throw that line out there. And yes, I'm sorry, one more time. They did that on Smallville, all right? Smallville, season 4, Onyx. He wore a kryptonite ring, and Lex Luthor said, I want you to remember the one man who beat you, okay? And it works well for him. So I gave him that line because it doesn't really make sense for Batman to say it, okay? Not in this version, okay? Because he didn't beat him, all right? So, and the point is, thematically, all these fights happen, and Lex is the only one who beat Superman. Think about that, all right? Zod, Batman, Bizarro. Bizarro would have beat him, but Batman intervened because of Superman convincing him. But Lex is the one man who could just kill Superman right now, and he chooses not to. Finally, he lets Superman go, and he goes back, and he sits back behind his desk. He says, you can see yourself out. And Superman's confused. He's like, wait, what? Like, you're just going to let me go? But he's not going to make any argument, so he's like, shit, man, I thought that was going to work. And he just kind of crawls out of there. We cut back to the Daily Planet, where everything seems to be business as usual. And, Clark, he's healed up because his powers are back and he's got super healing. So by the next morning, Clark Kent just looks normal. And Bruce comes out and he says, Clark, can I see you in my office, please? And Clark goes into Bruce's office. He's like, uh-oh, this is going to be weird. He sits down, and Bruce says, I want you to know that I haven't changed my mind about you. I do think that you're dangerous. I think that you've done horrible things and that you deserve to be punished. But last night I saw that you are punishing yourself more than any of us ever could, and that you are doing everything in your power to make up for what you did wrong. So, as long as you promise to do better and to be better, I guess we have an understanding. And the unspoken thing here is that you don't tell my secret, I won't tell yours. They shake hands, and Clark is like, yeah, I guess we do. And then Clark says, you know Lex, right? Bruce says, I thought I did. Why would he let me go? I mean, he spends all this time, all this effort trying to kill me, and when he has the chance, he just lets me go. And Bruce Wayne just kind of sits back and thinks about it for a second, and this is his deductive reasoning. This is why he's the world's greatest detective. He says, Lex Luthor is making billions of dollars off of government contracts built on his anti-alien agenda, all right? His interplanetary defense agenda. In order to get that kind of support, he needs an enemy that he can point to and say, that's it. That's what I'm here to protect you against. That is the threat. That is the danger. So if your evil twin had killed you, Well, then, we got an evil Superman running around causing havoc, and Lex can say, see, I was right, we gotta stop him. But since he died, Superman is the only enemy that Lex has. He needs you alive long enough to make a mistake, which is why, from now on, you gotta be squeaky clean. You can't make any more mistakes that he can use against you, all right? No more disasters. And Clark says, that's what I'm trying to do. And Bruce says, I know, but I think we can do even better than that. And that's when they come up with this idea to interview Superman and tell his side of the story. And actually, what Bruce doesn't know is that Lex is already planning 10 moves ahead. He's thinking about running for president. So his issue is interplanetary defense. His issue is Kryptonians, Superman. And I gave Bruce the best guess that he could make, but really there's information that he doesn't have. That's one of them. The other thing that he doesn't know is that Bizarro was going to die in 3 weeks anyway, and Lex would have milked that disaster for all it was worth. But if things started to go a little bit stale and they're like, these aliens aren't even coming back, he's got the codex, so he can make an army of Kryptonians if he has to. And he's a master manipulator. You know, some people complain about Zemo from Captain America Civil War. They say, how did he know exactly what was going to happen? How did everything just happen to work out perfectly for him? Well, it didn't. We even see him go to a backup plan early in the movie. His plan A was to get the coordinates for the secret base from the Hydra agent that he was interrogating. And he says, hey man, if you don't tell me what I want to know, I got to go bomb the UN, and I don't want to do that. So just tell me what I need to know. And the guy's like, hail Hydra, and he dies. So this guy has backup plans, okay? And they say in the commentary, yes, it is awfully convenient that Iron Man and Captain America and Bucky all show up to confront Zemo at the end. But they say, if that hadn't happened, Zemo would have snuck out the back door and mailed the video to Iron Man. So, all right, let's assume that Lex Luthor has a backup plan for his backup plans, all right? He is, another line from Smallville, you don't go into a situation with one plan, you go in with 10 plans. That's how you survive. That's Lex Luthor, all right? So, Lex Luthor had a backup plan for everything. You might wonder, hey, wait a minute. If he didn't actually want to kill Superman, what about Bloodsport at the beginning? Well, if you think about it from Lex Luthor's point of view, no matter what happens, he wins. Either Bloodsport misses completely, in which case nothing's different. Superman's still out there, Lex is still rich, and there's no problem. All right, if Bloodsport misses, no loss. All right, there's some money, but screw it. I'm a billionaire, all right? If Bloodsport wounds Superman, but Superman gets away, great. Now Lex can create Bizarro, and we proceed as we saw in the movie. And if Bloodsport kills Superman, great. We still have a blood sample that we can use to create Bizarro. I still win, all right? No matter what happened, Lex was going to come out on top. And that's how he thinks. He played chess. He studied the art of war. He knows everything that his enemies are going to do before they do, okay? That's the Lex Luthor of my mythology. And one of the things that's been going on in the background that I haven't talked about is that Superman has never given an interview. And nobody takes his picture, all right? Jimmy Olsen, if he's around, I don't know, maybe he's a CIA agent who gets killed in the first 5 minutes. But Jimmy Olsen, Jenny Olsen, whoever, they can't get a good picture of him. They're still, you know, the Daily Planet photographer, but they can't get a good picture of Superman. And that just can never happen, because my rule is that anyone who meets Clark Kent and Superman knows that they're the same person, all right? So anyone who meets Superman will never meet Clark Kent, and anyone who meets Clark Kent will never meet Superman, and if they do, they know his secret, okay? So that's why Lex Luthor is, as long as I'm writing Superman in this fictional world that I've created, Lex Luthor will never meet Clark Kent, which is not that hard to believe, because they did like 5 movies of Superman where Lex Luthor never met Clark Kent. All right? It's not that hard. Like, why would he? Okay? It's actually, like, in a city as big as New York, for example, what are the odds that you'll actually just run into the one person who happens to be Superman? All right? That's small world thinking. That only happens on TV shows where they have a small group of main characters, all right? And they have to interweave each other to make dramatic subplots, all right? In real life, you probably never would meet Clark Kent if you knew Superman. And if you knew Clark Kent, you would probably never meet Superman in real life. So they can never get a good picture of him, and he's never done an interview. But Bruce Wayne says, I want Lois Lane to write the article. I want her to interview you, and I want to hear in your own words your side of the story. And maybe we can get the public on your side again, okay? And I'll do my best to, like, make sure that we throw people off your scent so that nobody figures out that Clark Kent is Superman. So Clark says, thank you, Bruce. You saved my life, and now it sounds like you're saving my reputation. I want to repay you. Let me and Lois take you out to dinner. Our treat. And Bruce says, no, you don't have to do that. I was just showing off before, forget it. And Clark says, no, trust me. I know a place. It has the best food in Smallville. And Bruce is like, Smallville? Cut to the Kent farm in Smallville, Kansas, where Clark Kent is introducing Bruce Wayne to his mother, Martha Kent, all right? And he says, Bruce, I'd like you to meet my mother, Martha Kent. And Bruce says, Martha? And Clark's like, yeah, why? And he says, nothing. Which is about as much attention as that should have gotten in Dawn of Justice. Oh, your mom's name is Martha? My mom's name was Martha. That's funny. And move on, all right? Don't make it the single most important plot point of the entire movie, all right? He's like, oh, nothing, you know? And we're intercutting. We don't hear any dialogue from the actual family dinner, because family dinners are usually not that interesting anyway. But we're cutting back to the Daily Planet where Perry White is, we haven't heard from Perry White in a while, but he's been there, you know, he's been at the Daily Planet. It's just that Bruce has been kind of running the show. But, you know, the Daily Planet is still being edited, you know, the chief editor is still Perry White. So he's been around, we just haven't talked about him. But Perry White is reading the article left on his desk by Lois Lane, and it's called Superman Speaks. And we hear a voiceover from Henry Cavill reading the quote from the article. And he says, I have made mistakes, terrible mistakes, mistakes that I couldn't pay for in 1,000 lifetimes, even if I wish I could. I wish that I could turn back time and undo the damage I've done, but all I can do is move forward. And I promise that I will do everything I can to be the hero that you want me to be, or I will die trying. Again, foreshadowing for the death of Superman, which I would consider the third part of this trilogy, but we'll talk about that later. And while this voiceover is happening, we're seeing Bruce, Clark, Lois, and Martha having dinner at the Kent family dining room table. And in the background, I would use the music. Like I said, I'm not saying that the Hans Zimmer stuff is bad. All right, do the Clark Kent theme, you know, doon 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 doon. That stuff's great. I love that. While they're having their family dinner and while he's reading his quotes from this article, and we cut to outside the Kent farm where Bruce and Clark are just out for a walk in the field, and they're talking about Superman's new suit, and Bruce Wayne and. I know this is stupid, okay? It's the stupidest thing of this entire story, but it's the only way that the quick change works, okay? So I invented some technology for Superman's suit to make the quick change possible. I know it's stupid, I know it's campy, I know it's cartoony, but it's the only way that it works, okay? So Bruce is saying, look, the clothes I get, but how the hell do you fit a pair of shoes into your belt, all right? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. It violates the laws of physics. You would break the soles. And Superman says, well, you ever hear of a space bag? He's like, what, a space bag? He's like, yeah, you know, those late night infomercials that use vacuum sealing technology to, you know, compress clothes and things like that. He's like, yeah. He says, well, I just use that, you know, to put my clothes into this red belt that I have now. And Bruce is like, what about the boots? How do you fit those into your shoes? And he's like, well, they're like memory foam. And he's like, did you get all of your suit ideas from late night infomercials? And he's like, well, yeah, kind of. And Bruce says, where do you put the glasses? He says, those go in the belt buckle. That's the glasses case right there. He's like, you nerd. And he's like, well, I got to do something with them. I can't break them every time. And the cape is retractable in this version. So I'm not going to have time to explain it in the actual movie because it's going to happen very quickly. But basically, there's like an omega-shaped cutout in the suit where there's like a slot, a ring around the collar, and then another slot here. And it's the blue bodysuit, but underneath that is another layer, and in between the layers, the cape is stored. So when he turns into Superman, the cape can pop out of that slot. And then when he turns back into Clark Kent, it can suck back into that slot. And they're kind of joking about it because it is ridiculous. Because the idea is that he now fits his Clark Kent clothes into this red belt, this utility belt, which you might think could have been inspired by Batman. And Bruce says, look, man, I'm just saying, I fit a lot of shit in my belt, but never a pair of shoes. And he's like, well, trust me, it works. And Bruce says, thank you for this, by the way. It's been a long time since I've had a family dinner. And that's the third part that's going to make Kevin Smith cry. He's like, he finally had a family dinner with Superman. Isn't that great? It's the best gift he could have ever given that little orphan boy. I love Kevin Smith, by the way, all right? I love watching those videos. Look, you go to Kevin Smith's YouTube channel, his title video, his main video, is him crying while watching The Flash.
It's okay, you're okay.
What the
They're okay. They're both safe.
I love that stuff. That's my ultimate test. So I am making fun of Kevin Smith, but I love Kevin Smith. He's great. But yes, that's a real tearjerker moment for us comic book nerds, is that Batman finally has a family, and it's Clark Kent's family. And Clark Kent says, it was our pleasure. You know, you've actually got some pretty good manners when you're not pretending to be a douchebag. And Bruce says, not always pretending. And Superman says, well, let's just say I like you a lot better when you're not trying to. And then he turns, and he looks off in the distance, and we don't hear what he hears. And Bruce is like, is that super hearing? Are you using super hearing right now? And he says, there's a fire at the Smallville foundry. I have to go. And Bruce says, do you want me to come with you? And Clark takes off his glasses and he sticks them under his waistband into the belt buckle of the Superman belt that's underneath his jeans. And he says, you're not fast enough. And Bruce is like, ouch. Yeah, you're probably right. Besides, I left my suit at home anyway. And Superman says, yeah, I used to have that problem. And then we go down and he rips his shirt open. And couple of things here. Again, you can tell that I'm just like revising all of Batman or all of Superman's mythology to make it more believable. First off, he has to wear snaps, okay? His shirts have to have snaps because it's impractical to rip the buttons off his shirt every time. He has to buy a new shirt every time he does that, all right? So he's got snaps, and he has to rip the shirt all the way open, okay? It can't be that kind of half rip that we usually see. He has to rip all the buttons open. You'll see why in a second. And while they were talking, like when he does the super hearing and he's listening and he says, I have to go, we start hearing in the background, dun dun dun, dun 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 dun. And then when he rips his shirt open, we hear bump ba ba, and we do the whole full-on Superman theme. All right, we do the classic John Williams Superman theme from the 1978 movie, and when he rips the shirt open, Bruce just kind of rolls his eyes. He's like, yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. And Superman flies over Bruce's head, and Bruce just watches. He just shakes his head. He's like, all right. And the last shot of the movie is, and this is a tricky shot because it's stupid, all right? I acknowledge how stupid this technology is that we've invented. You could say it's the same shrinking technology they used to shrink the bottle city of Kandor, if you know anything about the comics, but if you shoot it right, it works. I've seen this before, okay? And again, I said it was the last time. Okay, fine. One more reference to Smallville, all right? If you go back to Season 4, Episode 1, Crusade, where Clark flies for the first time, and we see a close-up of him flying over the camera, that's the shot, okay? and his shirt is flapping in the wind, and it flies off and gets sucked into the back of his belt. All right, it's like a vacuum. And then his pants and his shoes fly off and get sucked into the back of the belt. And it's like they get squeezed or shrunk or something like that. I know it's stupid, okay? Just go with it. And then once all that stuff is in his belt, then boom, the cape pops out. And he flies over the camera. And that's the end of the movie, okay? And if you think, boy, that's awfully Superman heavy. I thought this was a Batman movie too. Okay, for the credits, because I'm assuming total creative control here. I'm not just the writer. I'm the director. I'm the casting agent. I'm in the editing room, and I get to pick the music, okay? So if I have total creative control over this project, which never happens on something this big, so I have an unfair advantage, we do the whole Superman theme. Then we do the whole Tim Burton Batman theme from the opening credits of 1989's Batman. Then I would still use the Junkie XL Batman theme, the bum 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 bum. But I would use that as Bizarro's theme. That's the music that plays when he goes on massacre and kills everybody in Cadmus Labs. So we do the Superman theme, we do the Batman theme, we do the Bizarro theme, and then we end with what I call Checkmate, all right? Checkmate, best DC movie ever, grand finale ending, which is actually called Finale in the Batman soundtrack. You'll know it if you've ever seen the 1989 Batman. It's when they light up the bat signal for the first time at the end of that movie. As bum 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 bum, and the credits end with a giant Batman and Superman logo, like they showed at that Comic-Con teaser the first time they announced it. That's it. That's it. That says it all. That's the whole movie. Okay, so important that it doesn't actually end with the words Batman versus Superman. It ends with the symbol, the Batman and Superman symbol, because what we're saying with that is that it's not Batman versus Superman anymore. It's Batman and Superman. They're part of the same team now, okay? So I wanted them to actually be friends in this movie, for God's sake. And it's got the same dynamic as Batman and Catwoman in Batman Returns, okay? So Batman and Superman don't like each other, but Bruce and Clark do, and they don't know that they're the same people, okay? So it's the same thing. Batman and Catwoman are enemies, but Bruce and Selina are dating, and then in the end, that all collides in a really dramatic way. So also, I wasn't going to say this, but if you're a really hardcore Superman fan, you'll know that I did this, okay? I came up with my story idea first, though. Okay, well, not first, but I thought of it. And then later it dawned on me that I was like, this all seems awfully familiar. Is this the plot of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace? And then I went back and watched it, and I'm like, oh no. Lex Luthor creates a clone called Nuclear Man, and they fight each other in Metropolis. Meanwhile, at the Daily Planet, some rich guy named Daddy Warbucks or whatever buys the Daily Planet, and now he's making them change everything about the way that they do business. Oh my God, I just rewrote Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. What the hell? So, yeah, I did it. All right. But hopefully this is better than that. Hopefully it's better than Dawn of Justice. And, you know, hopefully it's better than Man of Steel. Hopefully this is like an upward trajectory from Man of Steel and becomes a little bit closer to what people were actually wanting to see. And like I said, I want them to actually be friends in this movie and not just Bruce is sad because the guy that he's been trying to kill for a year and a half died. Does that sound stupid? Because that's the movie they actually made. Bruce Wayne wants to kill Superman for a year and a half, and then Superman dies, and Bruce is sad. And he's like, he was my friend. All right. I got to do like an audio commentary for Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice or something, because I got some stuff to vent about. But here's my answer. Let's not focus on the problem. Here's the solution. So I hope you like this. Again, there is no Rotten Tomatoes score for my ideas. There is no Metacritic score. There is no box office results for my ideas. So all I have to gauge how good this idea is how excited I am about it. And at least one other person I told this to, and he said, well, I don't know if it's great, but it's better than the one they did. So I hope you like it. If you've watched my other videos, I think that we're probably thinking alike, and you probably do like this version of the story. And if you like this version of Batman versus Superman, I want you to know that I am a novelist. I am working on a series of novels. They're not published yet, though. So if you like this stuff, all this stuff, it's a superhero novel. It's a futuristic superhero novel, sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Infinity War, X-Men, things like that. So I'm going to have a story like that, and all this kind of character stuff. Look, I'm not that creative. So a lot of the ideas you heard in this video are going to manifest themselves in my novels because, you know, I don't have the rights to Batman versus Superman, so I'm going to make up a whole bunch of my own superheroes and write books about them. So the first book is done, just needs a polish. I'm about a third of the way done writing the second book, and I want to have 3 of them written before I even publish the first one, okay? So then I can have a steady release schedule. So a few years from now, go check the description below this video, and I'll have a link to my books, all right? As long as everything pans out and I actually stick with it and become a successful writer, you'll see the books down below, all right? But for now, teaser, I don't know if this is a great marketing strategy or a horrible marketing strategy to advertise my books years in advance in the hopes that it'll be in the description box below. But yeah, if you like this stuff, you're going to get the same stuff from my novels, all right? This is the kind of storyteller I am. So if you like it, you're going to like them. So if you have not joined our 100 subscribers yet, let's make it 101, 102, 105, all right? Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and if you've already done that, thank you very much. Go send this video to other people who might enjoy it. Share it with your friends. And thank you for watching.